reporter's pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Pamo TV. There's Bill Clinton's Willie there as always. So you know that I'm at the railway station, yeah. I'm not getting a train though. I'm actually, well, I probably won't. I'm going to get a bus, but I'm going somewhere. I'm going to Swindon. I'm going to an event. And this time, I'm speaking. Have a look at this.
Oh, this is the event I'm going to go to. I love this poster they've done. It's a really, really cool poster. There's some rabbit holes. So there it is. That's upstairs at the Hop. The Hop Inn. Upstairs at the Hop. Sounds cool, doesn't it? Yeah. Exopolitics the Path to UFO Disclosure with me, Emlyn-Jones. That's a great image of me being beamed up by the aliens. Exopolitics has been called the militant wing of ufology. Yes, by Nick Pope, praise be upon him. But perhaps it's just ufologists who've made up their mind. Maybe history is about to prove them right. Is disclosure about to happen? Yeah, I mean, well, look, I know people have been saying this for years and years and years, including me, and it hasn't happened yet. But goodness knows, we've got closer, haven't we? Let's find exactly how close we've got. I invite you to accompany me.
That's it, guys. I'm going to speak at the Swindon Rabbit Hole. Terry Joyce. With Terry Joyce, it's not her rabbit hole, but with the Swindon crowd, it is. Yeah, I'm going to, not my rabbit, I'm going to the Swindon Rabbit Hole, which is good. And I don't know if Sargon will be there, I hope so. But anyway, I'm now trying to work out how the hell I get past this crashed UFO to get to Botley Road, which of course is where the bus goes. Or at least it was last time I checked, it was going from there. I mean, God knows, they might change things. I mean, one thing I know is that whoever you ask, that they will send you to a different place. That happened last time. So I'm just going to go back to the bus stop I was at before, and see if it's there. If not, I mean, if it gets too complicated, I'll get the train. I've been kind of deliberating about whether to get the train or the... Thank you. Whether to get the train or the bus actually on this entire journey. I was considering, at one point I'd almost made my mind up to get the train the whole way. See, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. The advantage of the bus is it's an awful lot cheaper. It's much less stressful. Disadvantage is the last bus home is at 10:05 p.m. I mean, as is, I'm not staying overnight. I'm going to go back this evening, and here's where we go, down this sort of passageway here now. Assume you get leads to the tunnel. When will they shift this down UFO? Anyway, 10:05 p.m. Now that's cutting it a bit fine because the event starts at 7:15. I probably won't get onto the actual podium until 7:45. That gives me maybe an hour and a half to do my talk and Q&A. Then I've got when you go to these events like this, you can't just do your talk and leave. I know some speakers do. Mark Pilkington does that with Miles. You know, Mark Pilkington, though, is a naturally shy person. Simon Parkes does as well. Again, he's quite introverted. But you know, normally when I go to these events, especially if I'm like the only speaker of an evening, and this is a midweek evening, it's only polite and it's expected to hang around and socialise for a bit. That's normal. It's kind of expected of you, because when you're the only person there. So now I'm going to get a return ticket on the bus, but it's likely I won't use the return half and have to get the train home because I mean 10:05 is quite early. I know. I mean, it could be that people. I'll read the room when I get there and see what the people are like. It could be that people will just want to bugger off at the end of my talk and they finish the Q&A and stuff like that. It sometimes happens on midweek evening events like these, but at other times people will actually want to hang around a bit, you know, until in which case I can get the bus home, so I can get the train home. If necessary, I'll miss the last bus and get the train home. Last train goes at 11:20, which is pretty good actually. It means no one's going to hang around there that late. And hopefully I'm hoping I can get a lift to this, whichever station, bus or train, whichever I'm going to. If I have to get the train home, I'm going to have to charge. I'll have to pay for it. It's probably going to be up £18 single or something. And probably more actually. But then again, you know, like I said, I'll read the room when I get there. If people just want to go home at the end, then I'll have a good half hour to get to the bus station and get the last bus home. Otherwise, I'll get the train, buy a train ticket. Okay, we're past the crash site now, and now so he said every time I come here it's a different route because of all the building works. Now we've got to get to the bus stop, which is on the other side of Oseney Bridge, I don't know how long it's going to be like that for. They've been digging up these roads now for like 2 years plus. I feel like it'll never end. So there's temporary lights, as you see. It's very hot. It's really hot actually. It's the heat wave today. It's going to be heat wave for the next few days. It's a longer one than last time. So let's go see if I can find a bus stop, and if it's still the bus stop I need. Okay, I found the right bus stop. It used to be a temporary bus stop. It's now pretty much permanent. The S6 is here, but it's been reduced to a single decker. It used to be like a double decker. It's now a single decker. I don't know why that is. But there you go. I hope they can get us all on board. There's not many. There's only 2 people behind me, so it's not too bad. And they're quite regular this time of day. Okay, I'm on the bus now. It's an older bus, doesn't have aircon. That's another disadvantage. Going by train is a lot more comfortable in terms of hot weather. Whether it outweighs the general stress of train travel or not, I don't think so. But anyway, I'm on my way. Volunteer. Another pub shut down. Very sad. Okay guys, well welcome to Swindon, town of the pigs. It's a stifling hot afternoon here at the bus station here in Swindon. And my hosts have just texted me they can't actually get here till 7:15, so I've got quite a long wait now until then, over an hour. So I don't know what to do. I expect I'll go and find a Wetherspoons, or I might just try and get to the venue. But there's some interesting non-conformist folk art. I'm probably going to be too. I might shoot the next episode, Town of the Pigs, now, but I don't think I'll bother. I'll come back for a separate journey to do that. Alright guys, I'm going to go straight to the hop-in. I've decided it's only an hour left, so I'm going to go straight there. Probably take me all that time to walk. Not least because I think it's all uphill, but I'm all in silhouette. But my hosts have told me they're on their way. They couldn't get here any earlier. Now, I mean, you could say I got here too early, which is true, but you know, I have a habit of doing that because I'm a bit paranoid against being late. I don't want to be late for anything, especially when I'm the speaker, you know? Definitely, especially when I'm the speaker. So I'm heading there now, up this hill. It's not far from where I did Town of the Pigs, actually. And I think I've seen quite a few murals, which indicates probably a part 2 is in order for Town of the Pigs, although I think it's going to have to wait until the weather's a bit cooler, maybe in the autumn. It's amazing, look at the monkey and the panda. Simply illuminated text at the bottom. I'll go over and look at it. This is amazing. Wow. Look at this. Oh, wicked. Very nice. There it is. Pembroke Street, Swindon, by Terry's Chinese Takeaway. Alright, this is called Avebury Street, interestingly. There's a Tartarian window here in that building. That door there, maybe not, it's about a foot up. Could be Tartarian, not sure. But you see the same thing here. And this is in the same building, so it's likely this is Tartarian. Here is the Hop Inn. And the upstairs, I suppose, is where the rabbit hole is. But I know rabbit holes are normally underground, but this one is above. Alright then guys, I've made it to the Hop Inn. I'm having a pint of cider. I know I don't normally drink before my talks, but I'm in the West Country. I've got to try a pint of cider. Just what? Never mind. See, I'm a bit hot and sweaty. Pretty soon, it'll be in about half an hour. The others will get here. Okay, guys. So my hosts have arrived. This is upstairs at the Hop. It's very hot in here. But here's I've got them setting up my books here. Copies of the light. I'll take those to Oxford. There's some more lights over there. I'm hoping, hopefully, we'll fill all these seats. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, but it's a nice little location here. Bit of anechoic tiles up there, but rather than that, it's not particularly. Hope they've got a projector. Hope this projector works. Well, we'll see. Thank you very much. And as I'm just getting. I'm always all the things I should have done ages ago. I'm now just starting to do. Right. Okay. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. Thank you very much indeed. Oh, it's really, when the weather's hot like this, it's really bad. I know we need to keep those windows open despite the background noise because of that. Okay, but yeah, thank you very much, Tracy, and thank you everyone for. Let me just get rid of that. Thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful Swindon Rabbit Hole, which is a really great name. Yeah. To give you a bit of introduction, as Tracy said, my name's Ben Emlyn-Jones, and this is my website. Anything you want to know about me, I'll get it out of the way right now. Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. And that is, if you just put HPANWO into the search engine of your choice, it'll all come up, and there's an awful lot there. There's a whole amount, there's a vast array of material there for you. I'll put this on full screen again. There we go. So just you should make a note, HPANW, but that's all you need. To give you a bit of background, this is me, the portering Buddha. I actually was a hospital porter for 23 years, hence the name of my website. And how I ended my career as hospital portering is a story in itself, but it's connected to what I'm going to talk about today. But I don't have time to tell you the story at all because we're going to talk UFOs tonight. We're talking UFOs and exopolitics. There's a difference between those two words, which I'll explain. But I should just point out that this is probably the time we're living in now is probably the most exciting time to be into ufology. It really is. The whole truth embargo has changed. Everything to do with UFOs has changed in terms of its relationship to politics and to the people and to the authorities and this infernal triangle between the extraterrestrial intelligence itself. Ever since July of 1947, there has been a concerted effort to suppress the truth about the fact that we're being visited by a non-human intelligence. Humans are not alone in this universe. The reasons for that we'll probably go into this evening. This policy, it's a policy that has been obeyed almost to the letter by almost every nation on Earth for 70 years and 5 months. And the reason I can time it that precisely is it because I know exactly when it began and exactly when it ended. It began in July of 1947 with the writing of the Cutler-Twining Memo. This was a document written by General Nathan Twining to Admiral Roscoe Hillencutter, the head of the CIA at the time, this newly formed organisation, saying that UFOs must be, even though we know they're real, I'm paraphrasing, even though we know they're real, we mustn't let the common folk know that they're real. So we have to treat them with official ridicule and denial. That is a quote. That policy ended on December the 17th, 2017, exactly 70 years and 5 months later, with the publication of an article in the New York Times by Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal, and it was about the publication of these images from the US Navy. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with all this. It began a new era in this entire study, of this entire field, and the reasons for that I'm still not sure of. I still don't know exactly why this happened and what's going on. Some people said, well, this is the government coming clean. This is like a process that's begun, which will lead to full disclosure with a capital D, and then basically everything associated with that. I personally not sure about that, and we'll have to wait and see. But there's certainly something new is struggling to be born right now. I don't know what it is, but there's a reason why this policy changed. It didn't change just out of coincidence. There's some forces at work that caused it to change. Maybe forces connected to the government, things going on in the government, or maybe ourselves, or maybe it's something to do with the ETs. But anyway, let's just get into exactly let's get into the realms of terminology. There's a difference between ufology and exopolitics. It says here, ufology is loosely defined as the study of reports, visual records, physical evidence, and other phenomena related to unidentified flying objects. UFOs have been subject to various investigations over the years by governments, independent groups, and scientists. The term derives from UFO, which is pronounced as an acronym. And then exopolitics, though, UFO, by the way, the word didn't exist until 1952 when it was coined by the Robertson panel, which was an early attempt at, I think, suppression by the CIA to dissuade and dampen public curiosity. Now, exopolitics is a more recent word. It only dates back to the 1990s. It's described as the study of key individuals, political institutions and processes associated with extraterrestrial life, information concerning extraterrestrial life and technology that is kept secret from the general public, elected political representatives, and even senior military officials. That's by Michael Salla, who's a very interesting chap. He has a website called Exopolitics.org, and he's something of an expert in this field. I define it more or less as ufologists who've made their mind up. Ufology is, well, what are they? Are they aliens or not? Believe it or not, there are still people in this world who go around like that, and try and move forward looking over the shoulder saying, well, could that be a weather balloon, or could that be swamp gas? And drones is the latest one, isn't it? They call them drone. It's almost like they just don't want to say it. It's like there's a psychological aversion to actually just admitting the truth. But ufologists who've made their mind up and says, okay, some of them are alien, what are we going to do about it? That's exopolitics in a nutshell. But we've got to go back to the beginning, because I'm not going to go too much into the realms of new ufology or post-2017 exopolitics tonight. We're going to look at the history of the whole thing. But I mean, to begin with, obviously ufology and exopolitics, there is a kind of like crossover between the two. And most people in ufology are also into exopolitics. And exopolitical ideas can be found right back to the birth of the modern UFO era in 1947. So, for example, that there is a ufologist, that's an exopolitician. That's a ufologist, that's an exopolitician. That's a ufologist, that's an exopolitician. That is, I've got no idea what that creature is. Yeah, Nick Pope. Nick Pope got married. He was standing in front of the altar with his wife Elizabeth to be. The vicar said to you, Nicholas, take this woman, Elizabeth, be your lawful wedded wife, loved, hold, cherished till death do you part. And he says, I can neither confirm nor deny that. Funny enough, were any of you, it's a long time ago, did any of you attend the Leeds Exopolitics 2011 conference? So long ago. No. It's got to be the best one of the best I've ever been to. Nick Pope was there, and he did an interview with The Sun, and he described exopolitics as the militant wing of ufology. And yeah, you should have seen Leeds that day. Overflowing dustbins everywhere, coffins piled up. Now, exopolitics and ufology, they're both centered on the United States of America for whatever reason. That country has always been kind of center of this particular field, and it seems that the US government is the one that calls the shots and has a huge amount of influence on other nations when major UFO events, including the presence and acquisition of decisive physical evidence, what's known as crash retrievals, occurs. But the origins of exopolitics they're more recent and they're more unexpected. To trace the beginning of exopolitics, you have to go to a different country, not the US, but this one, Grenada. It looks lovely, doesn't it? That is Grenada. It's a little island in the Caribbean, and it's a beautiful place. I mean, I just want to just strip my boots, my shoes and socks off and go wading in that sea right now. I really, really do. It's lovely, isn't it? And you may have been on holiday there. It's a very, very popular tourist destination. Usually there's a cruise ship moored up near in the main town, Georgetown, the main settlement there. And it's typical of the Caribbean. It's known for its lovely weather, good food, easygoing lifestyle, friendly people, things like that. So it's a perfect place to go on holiday. But there's nothing in this picture that indicates that this little island, it's only 10 miles across, it's a tiny island, it's got a population of 20,000 people, I think, is absolutely crucial and central in the development of exopolitical ideas in the modern world. Do you recognise him? Anyone? It's not Eddie Murphy. I know it looks a bit like him, it's not. This is Sir Eric Gairy. He was the first Prime Minister of Grenada. He was elected when the country first became independent in 1974. February 1974, exactly 1 month after the Bellarine Mountains UFO incident. That's not relevant. It's just a bit of trivia, because I tend to judge all historical events by how close they are to major UFO events. So that's just a bit of trivia there. Grenada was originally it was a British Crown colony. We actually bought it from the French in 1768. It was originally a French colony, and we bought it from the French for £5 million. Yeah, well worth it. If you look at that beach, it's well worth it. Good money well spent, I think. When you look at that beautiful beach. But yeah, he became the first. He was the first prime minister, and he was also Grenada's ambassador to the United Nations. He was very active in the United Nations, and in his country the two roles were combined, and he was very, very interested in UFOs. This is a very important historical document. It's a photograph that shows Sir Eric on the far left there, you see, under the United Nations logo. Then there's J. Allen Hynek next to him. Jacques Vallée, a young Jacques Vallée with thick black hair, see, next there in the middle. And then Colonel Larry Coyne, another UFO expert on the end. They're there. This was taken in 1977 during a very, very crucial session of the United Nations. And this is a. I'm not going to read this to you, but this is a text of a speech given by Sir Eric Gairy at the United Nations on the 12th of October 1977. And I'm not going to. Obviously, there's two parts to this. You can take a snapshot if you want. It's not very clear here. But you can get this off the Grenada government portal, and indeed the United Nations website has copies of this speech. But basically, Sir Eric is saying that the study of UFOs and the solution of the mystery of what they are is actually a major priority of the state. And he also wanted to have the world's second international UFO Congress, which took place in 1978. He wanted that to be on Grenada. That he actually spoke in 1977 at the world's first international UFO Congress in Acapulco, Mexico. And that is the first time ever a sitting head of government has actually spoken at a UFO convention. It's never happened since. We've had other officials who are going to speak there. Eric Burleson, US representative, there was a rumour he was going to speak at Contact in the Desert. This is one I just went to in the US. It didn't happen, but it was really amazing. If it had happened, that would have been absolutely amazing. And believe it or not, in 77, you see, 1st of October 1977, Sir Eric ordered the Grenada Post Office to issue this classic stamp, this $2 Grenada stamp. And it says here, research into UFOs. This is the background card here, where you see the United Nations building. You see the flying saucer at the top left? That actually might be based on John Lennon's famous sighting. John Lennon was living in Manhattan at that time, not far from the UN. And he, in May of 1973, he was on his balcony outside his apartment, and he's described, there's a video of him describing it to the reporter, of this UFO flying past his house. So, do any of you collect stamps? Any of you got this one? This is an absolute classic one if you get it. I tell you, it really is. I don't know if you can still get it. So, now this is not the first time the UN has rubbed up against the world of the extraterrestrial. This is a very, very interesting case indeed. It was written about by Bud Hopkins and Dr. John Mack. The guy on the left is Javier Perez de Cuellar. He was the UN Secretary General. Now, in 1986, something very, very strange happened. He was just about to step down from being UN Secretary General. I think, well, in fact, he might just have stepped down, but he was still entitled to a full security detail because of his position. He'd only just stopped being UN Secretary General. The one before was Kurt Waldheim, the one who dealt with Gary mostly, an Austrian guy. This is Perez de Cuellar. Now, on the right, you see a picture of a woman, you see, in a white nightdress being levitated out of a window into a UFO. And there's a picture of the woman there. That lady is called Linda Napolitano. And you may have seen the recent Netflix documentary about her. Have you seen that? It was really extraordinary event. It's called the Manhattan Abduction, or the Brooklyn Bridge Abduction. And what makes, alien abduction is a common thing. It's something real. It's something that happens to lots of people. It's a big subject. I can't go into too much detail right now. But this one is pretty unique in that it had independent witnesses. Two security guards, two of Mr. de Cuellar's security guards, witnessed this happen. They watched it happen. And what's more, there's a rumour, it's never been confirmed, that de Cuellar was actually with them at the time and he saw it too. I know this lady actually. I've spoken to her. I believe her. I really do. I think she's telling the truth. And another instance, this is much more well known as the United Nations and ufology linking, is Ronald Reagan. He spoke at the UN General Assembly September 21st, 1987, and he said something interesting, how quickly our worldly differences would fall aside if we were faced with a threat from beyond this, an alien threat from beyond this earth. And that is a very, very interesting thing. He said that. I mean, it's almost like he's giving a pretext for, well, it's possibly a state of emergency of some kind. I'll come back to that actually, because he said then he added, is not an alien threat already among us? And everyone sort of gasped, wondering what he was going to say next. But then he added, well, what could be more opposed to the aspirations of humanity than war or the threat of war? And of course, people said, well, he was just talking about the Cold War, because by 1987, the Cold War was in its terminal thaw. This guy was, Reagan had essentially become good mates with Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet premier, and they were making deals, and there was glasnost and perestroika, etc., etc. And this is Eric Gary with the US President Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter's just died at the age of 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I would love to have been a fly on the wall at their meeting, because they would have had a lot to talk about, because Jimmy Carter has reported seeing a UFO himself. This was when he was, I think he was, he was someone in Georgia. He was like a representative of Georgia, or senator in Georgia, and he's friends with Shirley MacLaine, the actress. And he was at her house, and they saw this UFO in the sky. So interesting stuff, isn't it? Now this is one of the most extraordinary documents you're ever likely to see. UN Resolution 33/426, dated the 9th of December 1977. It says here, 18th of December 1978. Sorry, establishment. This is the General Assembly resolution: establishment of an agency or department of the United Nations for undertaking, coordinating, and disseminating the results of research into unidentified flying objects and related phenomena. You never hear that nowadays. I mean, sure, there's congressional hearings, and I'll come on to that in a minute. And there's page 2. You can get this again. It's on the UN. I got this from the UN website. So this was known as the Gary Initiative, and it was a time of such hope for those who at the time were into UFOs. So Eric Gary became the principal figure around which the UFO research community was behind. This Gary Initiative had so much momentum. It was really, really going well, but then it all went horribly wrong. On the 15th of March 1979, Gary was actually in the United Nations having consultations with Kurt Waldheim, the Secretary General at the time, and he received devastating news from home. His principal political rival, Maurice Bishop, this guy, had taken power in a coup. Maurice Bishop was the head of the New Jewel movement. It's a Marxist-Leninist, Cuba-affiliated movement, political party. Jewel stands for Joint Endeavour for Workers' Education and Liberation. And he had he'd sneaked weapons onto the island, guns and other things, in oil barrels. And he and his comrades had basically marched into the government buildings, into the broadcasting house, into the post office, into all the official areas of the island, there's not much, because it's a small place, and announced he was taking over, and he appointed himself Prime Minister. When he did this, he outlawed Eric Gary's party, and he also put Eric's family in prison. He basically put them under house arrest, and he banned Eric from the island. He basically exiled Eric from his homeland, so Eric couldn't return to his homeland. And so Eric was also in a lot of danger, because the New Jewel movement had allies in the United States, including a guy called Mario Salas, no relation to Captain Bob, who's coming up later. But Salas had actually threatened to kill Gary, Salas and his comrades. So Gary had to essentially, he had to live in safe houses, he had to have bodyguards and everything. He was given political asylum in the United States, but he had to drop everything to do with UFOs and just sort this problem out in his home country, which took the best part of 5 years. Now, what happened was, it all ended in 1983, because one of Bishop's best friends, his deputy prime minister and his best friend, was a guy called Bernard Cord. Now, Bernard Cord then rose up against the New Jewel movement and carried out a coup against Bishop's regime and took over. So his best friend basically turned on him, took over the government and announced a new constitution, a new regime, and all the members of the original New Deal movement who were supporting Bishop were rounded up, and they didn't exile them this time. They put them against the wall and shot them. They're known as the Grenada 17. So as the saying goes, who needs enemies? So yeah, Bishop was killed by his best mate, his best friend. So when this happened, the US decided to act. They invaded, and there was basically an invasion similar to the Iraq and Afghanistan situations. Luckily, it was shorter and there was less bloodshed. But Bernard Cord was killed in the firefight. But the US basically took over. They then restored the original constitution, and Eric was finally allowed to return to his homeland. But you know what? I mean, the question I suppose you've got to ask is, and it's understandable for asking this. With the Gary Initiative, if you were in charge of the secrecy of UFOs, would you want to put a stop to it? Maybe even to the point where you would help any of the rebels in Grenada and take power, basically to engineer that, just to stop the Gary Initiative. I doubt that, actually, because if you look at the history of Grenada and the politics at the time, this was something that was inevitable. It was going to happen anyway. It was kind of like it's just a part of the politics of the Caribbean in those times, at that era. Similar to the Cuban Revolution in 1960, this was a big battle. It was kind of like a proxy battle between the forces of Soviet socialism and Western democratic capitalism that was kind of been played out on a small scale. That being said, however, this document came to light. It was a telex from the Foreign Office to the UK ambassador to the United Nations. This is on the BBC Caribbean website. Does anyone know what a telex is? Anyone younger than me? Oh, good. Right. Anyone young? It's. Can you imagine an email on a shopping till receipt? Got it, kids? That's a telex, yeah. And just basically saying we need to put a stop to the Gary Initiative. Not because, oh my God, people are going to find out about UFOs and we know they're real and we don't want them to know. It was just the tone of the telex was that we cannot have such a respected and serious body as the United Nations being used for such absurdities as UFOs. They were just terrified of their reputation and basically the look of the whole thing. That's what it was about. There was no hint of a cover-up. It was just, well, we know UFOs are nonsense, and this guy Gary is like, he's promoting this stuff in the United Nations General Assembly. It's not good enough. So we have to put a stop to this somehow. And here's a picture. This is Sir Eric Gary addressing the UN on the 12th of October 1977. I think Sir Eric, I think he was one of these people that often that the Caribbean tends to generate these kinds of characters. I mean, Bob Marley is another good example. Very eccentric and kind of non-conformist, naturally non-conformist people often come out of the Caribbean, I find. And I think he was one of them. And so what happened was he did return to Grenada after the US invasion. The occupation ended. He did run for office again, but his allure had gone, and he was never elected to official status again. So he retired from politics. In 1997, he died in his home country and was buried. There's a tomb in Georgetown in honour of him. So if ever you're on holiday in Grenada, cooling your heels on that lovely beach I showed you earlier, sipping Malibu in a coconut shell and all that kind of thing, maybe you could take a few minutes to nip to the florist, get a bunch of chrysanthemums and lay them on the grave of the one and only Sir Eric Gary. I don't know if we'll ever have another one like him in government anywhere in the world. I hope so, but you never know. Skip that. But it doesn't end there. In 1988, a book was published by Timothy Good. Now, he's written about 50 books. He's really a very prolific UFO author. Who's read any of his books? Anyone read a Timothy Good book? Yeah. If you're into UFOs, you always come across these. And the books are all very similar. I've got his latest ones. They're all very good, and they tend not to have like a narrative arc. They're more like a collection of reports and analyses. And this one is no exception. But it seems to have had more of an impact. It's his best-selling book. Got a great title, Above Top Secrets, the Worldwide UFO Cover-Up. And it seems to have been very influential. When that came out, that brought exopolitical ideas to a lot of people who previously had not had them. And 3 years after that was published, the Disclosure Project was launched. The Disclosure Project by this fine fella here, Dr. Stephen Greer. Anyone heard of him?
Yeah.
He's quite well known, yeah. Very modest man, incredibly modest, unbelievably modest man. I'm just a humble country doctor from North Carolina. Yeah. This basically was a movement that he started, which is still going today, which is campaigning for the end of UFO secrecy and the release of information related to UFOs, specifically the crucial forensic evidence, because that's very important. I don't have time to go into detail of that tonight, but I've got an entire presentation on that. And I think the culmination of the first decade of the Disclosure Project was ended on the 5th of May 2001 when he helmed what's called the Disclosure Project National Press Club press conference. Now, this was held at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. in the Grand Ballroom. The very same chamber that in 2013 was used for the citizen hearing, which I'll come to later. And at the time, it received over 20,000 people watched it on a live stream on the internet. Now, that doesn't sound like much, and by today's standards, it's not. But in those days, the internet was very different. And but at the time, this was the most popular and most widely watched live stream that had ever been put online. And there is the lad himself introducing all the speakers that are going to appear on this event. And there were about 24 of them. This is John Callahan. He was head of the Federal Aviation Administration's Accident Investigation Division. And he talked about various UFOs that have been interfering with aircraft, something he took very seriously. He took that very seriously, and including large airliners that had like objects surrounding them and controlling them. In some cases, this affected the functioning of the aircraft, which of course is a serious risk. It's a serious risk. This here is Charles Brown, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Brown. He was a World War II veteran who was part of Project Blue Book, and he was one of Hynek's, J. Allen Hynek, at the end of Project Blue Book in 1969 when the Condon Committee released its report saying, nothing to see, move along. Hynek rebelled against them, and this guy was one of the ones who supported him and stood up for him. This is Captain Bob Salas, no relation to Mario, who I mentioned earlier. Now, people say that if you're into UFOs, you must be crazy. Well, this guy wasn't crazy. He couldn't be, because if he was, we'd all be dead. Because this man was part of missile combat crew on America's strategic defense. In other words, it was his finger on the button. He was the guy in the bunker who launched the nuclear missiles, should they be needed. Should there be an attack against the United States, he would launch the retaliatory strike. And his mental health was very, very carefully monitored, because, if, like I said, if he got a screw loose, you can imagine the consequences. This is Carl Wolf. He was like a contractor to NASA, as was this lady, Donna Hare. Together, they gave a very interesting presentation, stating that they'd seen pictures from NASA which showed alien structures on the dark side of the moon. That is the dark side. It's called the dark side of the moon. It's the far side facing away from the Earth. Which makes perfect sense, because if you were an alien and you wanted to come to Earth and you wanted to set up like a forward operating position, the far side of the moon is perfect. Because it's a huge amount of space there, it's a huge amount of real estate. It's almost next door to the Earth, and in cosmic terms, it's the closest you can get. And it's one of the few places in the universe that's completely invisible from the Earth's surface for a reason other than sheer distance. So it's no surprise if aliens have gone there. So, well, why don't we see them? Because obviously there are craft now, including China, that have launched craft that have photographed the far side of the moon. The Soviet Union were doing it too. Why don't we see this? Because NASA, they doctor the photos, they put stickers over them, they airbrush them to remove these images before they publish them to the media. And it's amazing to think that obviously America's Cold War rival, the Soviet Union, was doing the same. They must have had a deal, as does China today. So this Cold War rivalry thing is pretty. I think it's a bit of a smokescreen. Larry Warren, he's a friend of mine actually. Larry, he's one of the crucial. He's probably the most important witness to the Rendlesham Forest incident. There's a new film just come out called Capel Green, which tells his story. It's actually having a premiere next week in Suffolk. But there he is speaking there. I knew someone who was actually in the audience. There was a guy I knew who was in the audience at this event. And this is George Filer, another pilot. He was ordered to chase UFOs in the 1950s in his aircraft. And he was actually ordered to carry out some very dangerous maneuvers, including descending very, very quickly from a high altitude to a very low altitude. He was worried he might misjudge the descent and just crash straight into the ground. But he gives his testimony there. All these people said they would swear on the Bible that what they're saying is true. Carol Rosin probably gave one of the most interesting speeches of all, because she said she knew Werner von Braun, the rocket scientist, the guy who designed the V2 missile for the Nazis in World War II that killed, was it 8,000 people in London, something like that, and was the basis actually of NASA's rockets when it started building rockets in the 1950s and 60s. He said at one point he spoke to her in the mid-70s and said things like, the Cold War is going to be over in 10 years. There's no indication at the time that it would be, but that's what he said. Well, he was right, wasn't he? Reagan's speech, and Reagan hanging out with Gorbachev like good mates and things like that. And he said that after that, he predicted that there would be the fear factor, which he said was essential for state-citizen relationships, will be replaced with terrorist nations. And that happened, didn't it? And then he said, after that, the last card that we played, if they're desperate, would be evil aliens. We need to unite the world and have weaponization in space to protect us from evil aliens. The thing is that the weapons in space wouldn't be used for that purpose. They would not be used for our benefit. They would be used to control us and to attack possibly benevolent extraterrestrials. Oops. But then on the 5th of May, the press conference happened on the 5th of May, 2001. But what happened on the 11th of September that same year? Again, with the Disclosure Project, there was this massive, massive momentum that had built, just like the Grenada Initiative in 1970, in the late 70s, and then it all went terribly wrong. Again, you've got to ask the question, was 9/11 done because of the Disclosure Project press conference and Greer's initiative? You see, I'm not as certain as I am over the Grenada Initiative that that's not the case, because it's possible. I mean, I believe there are probably several reasons, a number of reasons why 9/11 was done, and that could have been one of them. But it's not over yet. It carries on. This is being discussed everywhere, and there's such a culture associated with this. Now, this is interesting. It's more entertaining than interesting, but it is interesting. This is Dr. Stephen Greer here, who I showed you earlier. Having a debate. It was a very heated debate with Kerry Cassidy of the Project Camelot. I've just been to a conference she organised, actually. And this is really quite, if you like internet blood sports, you'll enjoy this, because this is literally the battle of the titans, the two biggest egos in ufology coming head to head, clashing, and it's the heavyweight prize fight. It really, really is. And it was started when Greer wrote an article saying, he made a speech at this conference in Spain, saying that aliens are all good. There are no bad aliens. The only bad guys in the universe are humans. And if you meet bad aliens, they're not really aliens. They're just the CIA pretending to be aliens, using stagecraft, men in costumes and things like that, alien reproduction vehicles and stuff like that. And Kerry disagreed with him, and it ended up in this big, massive fight. This massive, we didn't literally come to blows, but they were getting very angry with each other. You get this on YouTube if you want to see it. Like I said, it's very entertaining to watch. But if you look at the rationality and you look at the actual facts they were arguing over, Kerry is completely right and Greer is completely wrong. Extraterrestrials. I was talking about this with someone just before we started. The extraterrestrial beings are not one force. I mean, people talk about a galactic federation, which may exist. However, not all aliens are a part of it. From what we know from people who have contact experiences, extraterrestrials come in many, many different varieties. There's an entire taxonomy of them, really, now, of different species. They clearly come from many, many different planets and locations. And they have many different agendas. And they exhibit a very wide variety of behaviour, from very positive to very negative. Mary Rodwell talks about the children who have who have interactions with very loving and caring creatures that educate them and inspire them. Others are literally kidnapped and subjected to horrible treatment, including like what seems like medical experiments, which do them life damage. People have died as a result of their interactions with extraterrestrials. Some are taken and not returned. David Paulides has just made the new Missing 411 episode is all about that. So Kerry is actually completely right. We don't, and it's obvious, even though there are people who report different species cooperating together, for the most part we see we've been interacted with by lots and lots of different beings for their own purposes. Sometimes we feel it may be for our benefit, but very often it's for their own. And here we have Greer boasting again. Kerry doesn't look very impressed, does he? Now this is Asymmetric Disclosure. I just watched this actually. It's Greer's latest movie, and it's actually not bad. I mean, his films tend to sort of blend into each other. They're all quite similar, but they're worth watching. But the most interesting thing he's ever done, and he's made about a dozen of these movies, these little documentaries. The most interesting one is probably one of the earliest, which is where he sits down various witnesses and interviews them, and there's like so many of them. There's like 4 hours of him talking to people. One is a guy called Jonathan Weygand, who's a former US Marine Corps, who reports that he took part in crash retrievals in Central America. Very, very compelling indeed. Now this is Steve Bassett. Now see, the whole UFO disclosure issue does not centre around Dr. Stephen Greer, much to his annoyance. He would like it to, but it's not. And I think this is the reason why he often gets very tetchy with other people in the movement. This is Steve Bassett. Now I hold this man in much higher esteem than Greer, not least because he's very similar in terms of his approach. But with Greer, he often talks about how he went to some chateau in Brittany or some luxury island off the coast of Australia to brief this important person or that important person. And you get this feeling it's just all about him. You know, it's all about him. His movies tend to show him. It's mostly him talking, usually sitting in tight jeans and showing himself off. And Steve doesn't go to luxury islands. This guy was homeless for years. He lived in a car when he was a full-time lobbyist in Washington D.C. But he's still. I met him he was at Contact in the Desert a few months ago. He's nearly 80 years old now. He's still really strong. And this is the citizen hearing that he helped organise. In 2013, they basically got together a group of former US Congress people and carried out a mock or facsimile of a real government UFO hearing. Now these have now happened for real, or at least they're starting to happen for real. Unfortunately they're not as good as this one, but the steps are now being taken towards real hearings. And I don't know, it's taken so many years. I don't know if these people would have given up if they knew how long it was going to take. That's Greer. There's the two Steves, Greer and Bassett. That's Gary Heseltine, British ufologist, and Peter Robbins, one of the researchers for the Rendlesham Forest. Peter unfortunately has taken, I think, a bad turn in the last few years, and he's gone down a bad route. But in those days, he was very much on the ball, I thought. Every good activist needs its theoreticians. And this guy's one of the most interesting theoreticians, Richard Dolan. Now this guy was studying at Oxford. I never knew him, never met. I was a kid when he was there, but he was shortlisted for a Rhodes Scholarship. He was set for a very, very high level academic career, but conventional one, still very, very high level. Obviously an intelligent guy, studied, got his degree, was working for his PhD and other qualifications, and. But then he decided to do a module on UFOs, just for 3 months or so. Half a term, he'd do a module on UFOs, and so he read Above Top Secret by Timothy Good, and he thought this was something he could just do for a little while. Like I say, half a term just studying this, then he'd just drop that and go back to his regular studies. But those 3 months changed his life. He was so captivated by what he learned, he decided to drop everything he was doing and just do UFOs full time, which is what he did. So to quote the one and only Nick Pope, praise be upon him, I think we have a saucer in a hangar. decisive physical evidence, and not just mechanical but biological. Now, disclaimer, that's not actually a dead alien. It's a model. It's in the Roswell Museum, which is in New Mexico, where the Roswell incident took place. But I believe something like that actually exists, and there's a lot of reasons for. I'm really sure that happens. So, with all this information, why don't we know about it? Could we ever be told? Could we literally have this guy, Donald Trump, US President, literally coming out on the podium like this and saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you today that aliens are real. We didn't tell you, but we're telling you now. Sorry we didn't tell you before. At least it will be real when I sign an executive order saying it's real." So, do you think that's going to happen? It's. What about this person? What's his name? What's his name? I've forgotten his name. Keir Starmer, that's it. Right, yes, Keir Starmer. Not the most memorable Prime Minister we've ever had, is it? Is he? Yeah. Do you think? No, I don't know about you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Keir Starmer, and I'm the Prime Minister. I'm going to talk to you about something interesting today. Yeah, aliens are real, and we don't tell you. I'm sorry. We'll bring back school milk. I know. That's the one thing that will convince me there's no such thing as aliens. If he told us.
They'll do U-turn on it anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I mean, we've got to get into the idea. I don't have time to go into the detail, but what if the government have the means to create energy out of nothing for free? They do, yes. And it's not just from aliens. They've got the technology from the aliens through studying crash retrievals, and maybe even these have been donations from some of the species. They keep it from us, though. They keep it from us. Because for various reasons, one of them, I think they need us to be dependent, and scarcity equals dependency, and dependency equals control. If we have a fuel source, and we're still using Stone Age fuel sources in the modern era, we have cars with top electronics. They're still using the same fuel sources the very first cars were powered by. And indeed, the oil industry only took over from the coal industry, like in the late 19th century. Before that was coal, and this has been used for millennia before. But if we did have free energy, we wouldn't have to worry. There's so much we wouldn't have to worry about anymore. Poverty would be eliminated. Environmental destruction would be eliminated. Pollution and things like that would be eliminated. And we would be able to relax. We'd be calm. We'd be happy. And I mean, we might start thinking. See, if we ever get into the position where our lives are easy, we might actually start thinking: do we need these corrupt, overpaid bureaucrats in Westminster and Washington? Maybe we don't need them anymore. I think the power the government has over us, by us being scared of something, by being worried and fearful, and then they then present themselves as our saviours. Free energy could take some of the poorest people on earth and lift them into a standard of living they've never experienced before. A lot of the reason there's so much poverty in one country, or different countries of different levels of poverty, it's got a lot to do with energy access and ability to actually have the ability. And indeed, using conventional power sources, it's not often possible in some countries to set up an infrastructure that could actually create a high standard of living. Once you have free energy, you can desalinate seawater, you can irrigate deserts. No one needs to be hungry ever again. There'll be no more wars. There'll be no more wars for oil because no one will need oil anymore. These wars always break out, don't they, in places where oil has been struck, in the Falkland Islands, Darfur, places like that. That's not a coincidence, is it? For those of you concerned about mass immigration, the mass immigration agenda only occurs because there's this push and pull factor for the people in these countries to move to the West. And this enticement wouldn't exist if it wasn't for this massive difference in living standards. And if you, as I said, if in the third world there was a massive raise in living standards, no one's going to want to leave. They're not coming here for the weather. No one's going to want to come here for the weather. I predict actually in a post-Illuminati world, there could be an immigration issue with people in the West migrating to the former third world to get their place in the sun. This actually it's part of the scenario in my book here, Roswell Redeemed, Humanity After Disclosure. It's £10 if you want one. There's another one up there doing its job. I've got two left. There's one doing its job on the projector. But yeah, I think that could be a scenario in the future. Yeah, this could be where we would be in the future. This is a piece of sci-fi art, but this could have been the present if it wasn't for the truth embargo. Who's going to object? Who's going to object to that? Well, obviously the government, of course, will object for political reasons. But I don't believe these people in the oil companies are necessarily motivated by some global political agenda, some desire to control the population. For some of them, it's just the profit of their industry. You're going to go up to the chairman of Royal Dutch Shell or Mobil, Exxon, these other companies, you walk in, he's got sitting behind a desk the size of a tennis court, and you say, "I've just come to tell you your services are no longer required. We don't need you for oil anymore." And as I turn to leave, and I turn, "Oh well, but it's not the end of the world. You still need oil to make candles, Shell candles. They smell nice, pretty coloured. They won't stain your wallpaper. There's going to be a big dollar on Shell candles, isn't there?" What do you think they're going to say? Do you think they're going to agree to it? Do you think they're just going to say, "Okay, we'll shut down, we'll stop supplying oil, and we'll just make Shell candles"? Of course, they're going to be behind. They're going to be collaborators in any cover-up that goes on, even if it's not the principal reason for the cover-up. And in 1959, the Brookings Institute, a think tank which covers a multitude of sins, issued a report stating that if NASA, and indeed they contacted the Soviet Space Agency as well, if any space explorer came across extraterrestrial life, intelligent extraterrestrial life, even the remnants of past extraterrestrial life, it wouldn't be an idea to shout it from the rooftops, because they couldn't guarantee that the government would be able to keep control of people. The church and the institutions might fall, things like that. So when the Viking Order took a picture of a face that looks like a sculpture on Mars, there was immediately a massive campaign just to ridicule this and say it's not. It looks like that, the same way you see faces in clouds, pareidolia. It's not really a face. They ignored the fact there are other structures around this face that are even more obviously artificial. And indeed, it was only, this is how we conspiratorialists, right? We can have power, because what happened was Richard Hoagland, he went on the Coast to Coast and he said, when you next send a rocket to Mars, you need to photograph Cydonia more carefully. And indeed, they did it. NASA said, because everyone was writing to their Congress people and stuff like that, NASA said, all right, we'll send the Mars, I think it's called the Mars Observer, in 1993, that was launched. And it was due to take some really high-resolution photos of Cydonia. Guess what? It broke down on the way to Mars, and they just lost contact with it. They launched another one called the Mars Reconnaissance Observer, I think it was called. That did take some photographs of Cydonia, but they were all doctored to make them look like bits of cat litter in a tray.
Yeah.
You remember? So there was a cover-up. There's a distinct cover-up. Okay, now you might want to look away, because I'm going to show you a quite disturbing image. All right. And no, that's what we've done that one. Yeah. This is almost as bad. This cow here. This is a cow here that's been found injured with these strange injuries. This is another reason why I think that the government don't want to tell us things. I mean, the government are scared it would cause public panic. They have a really low opinion of us. They're convinced that we're going to panic at everything. Oh, they're just going to panic. We can't tell them they panic. But I think the reason is they can't actually do anything to stop this from happening. And the worst aspect of this phenomenon, one that even some researchers like Linda Moulton Howe will not address, is all species, there's all kinds of species turned up with these injuries. Farm animals, wild animals, even aquatic mammals. But sometimes human bodies turn up with these injuries. And Linda's upset about this. I mean, I think a lot of people like to believe that we're special. Humans are special. We're not like the other animals, and we're not. We always talk about animals and humans as if we're like above them. But biologically, we are part of the animal kingdom, and it's possible that whatever alien species is doing this, and I do believe it's not humans doing this. They may not regard us as particularly, more important than any other biological entity on this planet. Whatever reason they're doing this, it's baffling. I can't. There's been several attempts to explain this, and all of them fall short. Let's go on to a nicer. Should we have a nicer picture, shall we? A more pleasant and fun picture. There you go. This is not a photograph. Okay. This is an artist's impression of what some alien abductions are like. What goes for the mutilations also goes for abductions. The government can't do anything to stop it. They're helpless, and they don't like admitting they're helpless. Yeah, they really, really don't. And there's some theories about how the government have done deals with the aliens. Give us the technology and we'll let you abduct people. But I find that quite unlikely, because in any such negotiations, we humans wouldn't have much to bring to the table. The aliens don't need our permission to do this. They've been doing it for a very long time. Reports like this go back through history. People were probably being abducted in prehistoric times and being treated like this. For what reason? Again, that's a mystery. And when it comes to the reverse engineering of technology, it's possible that some of it has been turned into weapons. This is just the Right Honourable Paul Hellyer MP holding up Dr. Judy Wood's Where Did the Towers Go?, where Dr. Judy Wood has discovered distinct evidence that a directed energy weapon, possibly reverse engineered from extraterrestrial artifacts, was used on 9/11 to destroy the World Trade Center. And Hellyer is an amazing character. He's very similar to Eric Gehry. This guy was actually the Minister for National Defence for Canada, and he was also the longest sitting member of the King's Council, which is the highest chamber in the Canadian government. And funny enough, something strange happened. When he died, a lot of people were writing obituaries. I wrote one as well. But in the mainstream media in Canada, silence. You'd think there would be some kind of mention, some kind of they'd say a few words, the principal newspapers would say a few words about this guy, seeing as he was such an important, he was one of the most senior statesmen that Canada had. Not a single peep. I wonder why that was. And so, it's not just the secrets that have been kept from us, it's the fact that they were kept. How much evil has been done to us out of the fact that we have not had access, for example, access to free energy and anti-gravity technology. The wars for oil, the poverty, the environmental destruction that I've already mentioned. That could have been alleviated 80, 90 years ago, even longer. Nikola Tesla discovered free energy effects in the late 19th century, before the era of oil even began, when most people were still using coal. But it was shut down. Everything Tesla did was shut down by J.P. Morgan, Lawrence Rockefeller, and David Rockefeller. All the major power brokers in the world attacked him and destroyed his work and left him destitute. Other free energy inventors have been destroyed. It ends up the same way. And so I think they're afraid for this torch and pitchfork scene from the South Park cartoon. When we find out what happened, there's no real spin doctor that could dig them out of this, is there? I'm actually wonder when you consider what happened during the COVID crisis. Maybe they could. A certain number of the population they could actually subdue with almost anything, actually. But these questions will be going on in these secret boardrooms. Right now, at this moment, they're discussing exactly how to maintain this situation. If it's going to break down, if the secrecy cannot continue, how can they come up smelling of roses? That's what they're discussing right now, and our job is not to let them. And it goes on. We now have a new political landscape in which so much has changed. Now, it's not all going our way. I've been very dismayed over the last couple of days to hear Trump and his colleagues say there was no such thing as the Epstein client list, when this is utter nonsense, and we know it's nonsense. And they promised, they'd release it. But something weird's been happening, right? Every time I go onto YouTube, I'm sure it's to do with the algorithms and to my preferences. But every single major news channel is showing this on a continuous live stream. They're showing the recording of the November last year. There was a UFO disclosure hearing in the US Congress, probably the best one we've had so far. And they keep showing, repeating it over and over again on these major news channels. And I've got to ask myself, why are they doing that?
Project Bluebeam.
Well, that's a good point.
They're getting us ready to accept the Project Bluebeam.
That's why I'm going to come to that, right? And I'll skip that.
Doesn't mean it's true.
But this is actually, believe it or not, this is going beyond. This is going into areas people are talking about this who never used to talk about UFOs before. This is a local celebrity here, Carl Benjamin, known as Sargon of Akkad.
Yeah.
He's done several, believe it or not, he's done several videos on UFOs, and including the one he does on podcast, The Lotus Eaters, where he has like a discussion with his friends on
He's
the
got his
panel.
own channel now.
He's got several of his own channels as well.
Here's a day.
Akkad Daily. And all his others have been banned, but he is back on YouTube now, and he's on all this. But I mean, this guy never even looked. I mean, I've been following this guy for a number of years, and he's never even talked about it before. Now it seems to be like, it's almost like he can sense the writing on the wall. Now this is a good film, Earth versus Flying Saucers, 1956. Yeah, it's very, very good, and it's actually interesting because it's full of exopolitical ideas. But I think possibly you mentioned it, and I brought it as well. The possibility that it's going to be summed up by Bryce Zabel. He spoke at the 2011 UFO, the Exopolitics Leads conference, which I mentioned already, the one where Nick Pope said we were the militant wing. Bryce said, when disclosure happens, and the government finally come clean, it could be that we're actually in danger, and the aliens are actually threatening us. There are species that are a major threat to Earth, and that as a result, they kept it secret from us for that reason, because this was essentially a military confrontational situation. So we as a people just have to forgive them. And I asked him in the Q&A, is it possible the government will say that just so that we'll forgive them?
Do you think it could be possible that they're actually here within our interest, and they're going to take out the ones that within the planet that aren't within their own interest?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it's hard to know what they're thinking because, you know, they don't actually comment openly.
There are a lot of them that are within our interest, aren't there?
I believe there are some who look like us and are actually walking the earth pretending to be human right now. I think they are, and hybrids as well. People who are half alien. Now here's another film. This film here has a very, very similar plot to Earth versus Flying Saucers. Much more recent, from 1996, Independence Day, Roland Emmerich film. Now it's an appalling film. It's really bad. It's dire, but it's worth watching because if you to analyse it, to analyse what the message is in the film, which is they're even. I think this is predictive programming. I think, and there's a lot of other films that are similar. War of the Worlds was remade as well around at the same time by Steven Spielberg. It's saying that evil aliens might attack, and when they do, we need an international state of emergency to save the planet. Well, all civil liberties and national governments are suspended, and we come under the umbrella of a single emergency world authority to protect us. Yeah. Temporary, of course. Just temporary. Yeah. And of course, these things are always temporary, aren't they?
No, it's the Illuminati that save their own arms.
This would be the perfect way they could get out of it. And the technology to create a fake alien invasion exists in the form of Project Bluebeam that that lady there mentioned. It could be done. I mean, a lot of people in the exopolitical world deny this. And they say, no, that's silly. They're not going to do something like that. I think they might. I think, in fact, there's all kinds of scenarios they could now pull off to try and complete their great work of ages, or to regain the ground that they've lost in the last decade or so. I mean, they could try and start a war. They've been trying to. Hasn't been working. They could try. Could they try another? Would that? I don't know if that would work a second time. What does that leave? There's obviously the climate crisis. This fake completely fake and contrived environmental problem they've been engineering. But again, if all else fails, they'll go double or quits with a fake alien invasion. And I think, and this is something I do agree with Greer on. They might try something like that. Now, if you want to know more, this is just if you can ask me questions. But I have some books: Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure; Roswell Revealed, the world after disclosure; Roswell Redeemed. So I've got 2 copies left of that, and the Roswell trilogy. Now that's a fictional scenario. It's about what would happen if we got the truth instead of the lies, and it's just a story. But it's full of allegorical information, which is connected to what I've spoken to you about tonight. And so if you want a copy, I'm afraid I haven't got any of the others. I've only got Redeemed, but I've got 2 copies left. They're £10 each if you want them, or nearest offer, and I'll sign them for you. But do you have any other? What's the time now? Is it? What are we doing for time? Oh, we got. No. Okay. Any questions or comments, ladies and gents? Anything you want to bring up? Sir?
You mentioned you went to contact in the desert, which is kind of the biggest of all such things.
Oh shit, 2,000 people is amazing, yeah, it's amazing. 5 days.
What's it like? What's the experience like? Lots of famous faces,
It's fantastic, yeah. I mean, anyone, you get to meet so many like-minded people, and in living, just for 5 days we can live in this world where, to quote someone I met there, it's our turn to be normal. And you can meet all the characters I've spoken about this evening. You can meet them; they're all there. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. I was really sad when it ended, actually, and I've got to go back to the so-called real world. But I hope to go back there. It was just wonderful. There's a video on my channel, actually, Ben in the Desert, which is like a video diary of my time there. Anyone else? Questions?
I have a question. Do aliens, as far as you know, come in genders?
From what I've gathered, some of them do. Yeah, I mean particularly the more human-like ones appear to be male and female. Yeah, and they, in a similar way, they have. Travis Walton actually, in particular, identified the different male and female because their appearance, the women had long hair, the figures were their feminine figures, things like that, just like humans. So yes, they do. Others don't. Others appear to be more androgynous. So it depends which species you're dealing with.
That's wonderful. What do you think of David Icke?
Sorry?
What do you think of David Icke?
Oh, I love David Icke. Oh. He's great. He was essential to my sort of education into this world. I discovered him in the late 90s, and I think he's fantastic. And have you been to his live shows and things like that?
No.
Oh right, they're really, really good. He did a 12-hour one in London at the Wembley Arena, and it was really, really cool. Yeah, I don't agree with everything he says, but he's a very, very important sort of influence on me. Yeah. Anybody else? Hello.
Where does he gets his information?
Where does who?
People who write books about where do they get this information, or themselves, film producers, where do they take their ideas, the information?
Right, well it depends on what kind of book it is and who's writing it. Someone like Richard Dolan will... David Icke. David Icke gets his books, his information from... Well, unfortunately he gets a lot of it from other people and he doesn't necessarily credit them, which is a little bit of a... It's something he really should do.
He had a download.
He also has channels. He sees channelers. He sometimes has insights himself, which he describes as channeling. He speaks to people around the world and various researchers, and he talked about the reptilian thing. There's this guy, Credo Mutwa in South Africa. He did a 6-hour interview with him talking about the reptilian agenda. There was this lady called Arizona Wilder who said she was a mind control slave of the royal family and they were reptilians. Obviously, people say, well, there's no proof of this, and I know there's not, but there's a lot of stories and there's a lot of anecdotes, and they do cohere. But other people, there's people who channel information. There's a lady I know who channels the Pleiadians, who she says are extraterrestrials, and so it depends. Richard Dolan gets all his from researching government documents, Freedom of Information Act, things like that. So it depends which book it is and who's writing it. I got this is just fictional. It's a story, but I base it on the information that I've received from various people, and I will credit the individuals, although this is not actually a factual book. It's based on reality. It's a sort of what-if scenario. Any more questions or comments?
Have you got any specific personal recollections of you interacting with UFOs or stuff like that?
I don't have any memories, but I have. I've got a mark on my left arm which I had scanned, and there's an implant in there. I don't know how that got. I've got no memory of how it got there. I don't know how it could ever have got there, but I've had it. Someone just discovered like a magnetic field and a pulse coming from it. Yeah, I don't know. It's so disturbing. I kind of.
Is it like a kidney bean shape?
I don't know what shape it is. See, I've not had it imaged. I had it. So far, I've just had like a radio frequency pulse test and a metal detector test, which came out negative, and an electromagnetic field test, which all confirmed something strange in my arm. The next step would be, of course, to get like an MRI or something or a CT. But then, where do I go? Do I go to my GP? He would ask to be referred to X-ray. No, he'd refer me to the psychiatric clinic, wouldn't he? I mean. In 2014. Sorry, what did you say? When did I find out? In 2014, and it's still there to my knowledge. I don't know, but it's. I don't know how it got there or why. I know several people who've got them. Most commonly, it's in the hands or the feet or the nose. One lady I know, I thought about getting it scanned properly and getting it removed. And there's a guy called Dr. Roger Lear who used to do that. However, the problem is that a lady I know had one in her nose and she got it removed. She actually went to Egypt and had a private operation to remove it. It cost like £1,500. No one, obviously you couldn't do this on the NHS. She had it removed, she put it in a pot, sent it to Roger Lear, he's been examining it, and she thinks that's the end of the matter. But then she had missing time, 2 weeks later she had missing time, and obviously she believed she was abducted again. She went back for another X-ray, and it had been replaced. So whoever or whatever wanted to put the implant in there in the first place is basically saying, no, you have to have one there, and if you take it out, we'll put another one in. So they might do that to me. You know.
That's why you're not having it removed.
That's one of the reasons. Yes, I think it's. This has happened before to other people. People who've had them removed, they get replaced. There's nothing you can do to stop them doing that. I think it's like.
Someone with you all the time.
Yeah, it's
And then they get abducted as well.
Sorry.
I said if you kept somebody with you all the time as security to make sure it didn't happen, then they'd probably get taken as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is like. I mean.
There's that problem with that, and then it's back thing.
I wonder if that would work. Yeah, because obviously there are people like who are with abductees who also have missing time. That's right. Like you might have someone in a car who's taken, and the passengers also they don't have an abduction experience, but they have the missing time experience. Yeah, that's it. So, anyone else like a question or comment? Let me know. Someone at the back.
No, sorry, I was just.
Oh, all right. No worries.
Yes.
And anybody else like to say anything?
Do you have an opinion about 2027? If you get all excited about that?
Oh, I'm not sure because I mean, these predictions have been made before. Remember the 2012 phenomenon, the Mayan calendar thing. Funnily enough, the most accurate prediction I've heard was from David Icke. He said just before 2012, he didn't think whatever happened on 2012, it wouldn't become apparent. He thought 2016 would be a major turning point, and indeed it was. Politically, I think for a few months the Illuminati completely lost control of the world's political structures, which is why we had Brexit and Trump. Everything that's been the next few years, the Illuminati desperately tried to claw back the control they lost. I think the crisis was a retaliatory strike for 2016. It was basically them they panicked and they lashed out, and that's what the crisis was.
Well, that was planned before that.
Yeah.
Because there
Was
was,
it?
there was
Oh,
a
right.
PDF that comes from 2010, 2014.
Oh right.
2014 is the first time is it 2010? Yeah, but it's a PDF. It's called Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development, and it's a Rockefeller Foundation.
Right.
Yeah, you can go and read it. It talks about lockstep, it talks about basically scenarios
because they have new technology and they want to do international development, and they have to find a way of dropping it on the public gently, so they do have
Interesting,
a lot of people in their homes, a lot of royal homes. Like, when I read that scared the life out of me, and on the 24th of March 2020, I stood there and thought, this is it, this is it.
That's interesting, isn't it? If they plan it in advance. And it's funny, 'cause I mean, I'm gonna have to make this video. I'll make the video. I won't be able to put this video on YouTube now. It'll have to be only on Old Tech. But in 1971, or 1970, the American War College released a document which has been very influential. That stated that the perfect the perfect delivery platform for a biological weapon would be a campaign. They said, you know, if you want to just infect the population with a biological agent, that would be the way to do it. Get them taken, tell them it's to protect them from a disease, and that's how they do it. And I think, this is why I was so concerned when the government was so desperate to get us to take these vaccines.
It's only mainly a certain demographic. And if you look at the legal, do you know about the legal report?
I've heard of it, yeah, I've heard of it.
If you look at that, it tells you that this country is going to lose 78% of the people this year, 2025, and America 72%. And it was Canada and all of these countries up here. It didn't make any sense at the time. And then when the recommendations came out, and most people started to sort of things.
Well, doesn't that fit?
And then also, we're also getting a big influx of illegal irregulars, what we call them, irregular immigration come into our country as well. And it's all the countries that are.
Well, doesn't that fit with like the West's decision to reduce saying that the world needs fewer people, basically?
Well, yeah.
And
you'll know nothing of it.
Yeah, and so there are many people will be in these kind of like pods owning nothing and being happy, etc. And they've even said, they've even make predictions about population levels, which is extraordinary. They say things like they talk about the like 500 million people of the global population in 2030 and things like that. And I think, how do they know that? Why are they predicting this?
Humanity under 500 million according to the Georgian Guidelines.
That's right. Before some.
And that was 1980.
Yeah, that's right. And it's some very noble person who. Yeah. So, any more questions or comments?
Not a question, but a comment. Do you follow Dr. David Martin?
I've heard his name, but no.
I find him an amazing man. And he talks about the patents, the bioweapons, all of that kind of thing, and goes right back. A lot started with Malthus. He's an English person.
Yeah, that was in the late 18th century, wasn't it? He said.
So the plans have been long in the making, but what I like about David Martin, he produces all the documents, and you can look them up online, and all the patents and the owners of the patents and that kind of thing. It's a very, very interesting man.
Right, yeah, well, I've heard his name, and I'm sure I'd love to hear what he has to say, definitely. Yeah. Does anyone else would like to say anything? Yes, hello.
Do you think Cape Green will ever be on general release? We waited so long.
Yeah, no. I'd given up on it, you know. And when Dion told me there was going to be a premiere, I thought, wow. Yes, I mean, he can't just do the premiere and just leave it again. Dion will. I mean, I don't know specifically, but what I believe is that he will. That he will actually follow up with some kind of like streaming or release or something like that. There may be some more. There's already a second screening being booked for the Regal Cinema on the Monday after. So yeah, it's going to go, and I'm hoping he'll enter into film festivals and things like that as well. Right. Thanks for you, everyone. I appreciate you coming here. Much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
They might like. I've got two of these, £10 each if you want them, or nearest offer. Let me know if you want a copy of this book. I'll sign it for you. It'll be worth a lot of money in a few years. So, yeah. Thank you very much. Well, 10 to 10 in the Town of the Pigs when I'm here. And so luckily I've got this is the last bus that goes to Oxford. I did in the end catch it. I mean, I'd have been happy if people had been really chatty, and I'd have been happy to stay a bit longer and catch the train home. But as I said, you've got to read the room, and people were talking amongst themselves, but they weren't necessarily there to worry about me being there. So Tracy and Andrew came up to me and said, look, do you want to just get us down, catch the bus home? It'd be much cheaper if you do. And I said, yeah, sure, I did. It'd be cheaper for them too, because obviously they're helping me out with my travel expenses, which are very low, of course. But they did give me a healthy tip, which is nice, which is very nice of them to do that. I don't require it, so I left. But they were a lovely group. I'll say more later, but probably because I'm a bit tired right now. I might even have to leave the rest of the video till tomorrow morning, because it's a long time. You know, you'd go to work, you leave work, you come home. I haven't had my normal afternoon nap. Get on the bus, come to Swindon, go all the way back again. It's like been really, really. I'm doing the talk. The talk went very well, although I am going to have to make this an All Tech exclusive, because subjects came up which you may think, well, exopolitics, UFOs, it's not like the big deal. But other subjects came up in the Q&A, which means I'll have to make this an All Tech exclusive thing specifically. You know, is you can't talk about on YouTube. That's all right. I'll just put my usual notice on YouTube saying, go over to BitChute Odyssey and Rumble and see the video there, and that kind of thing. I've had a really good evening, and they're going to invite me back because, as you know, I can cover other subjects, so I'm going to go back and do another talk for them at some point. Yeah, but now I've just got to wait for this bus. This bus will be leaving in about 10 minutes when the driver's not there yet, but I'll get on as soon as he's here. The moon's very low in the sky. It looks huge, it's big and yellow. That's often the case. You may be wondering how many people turned up this evening. Every seat was full, and even at the back there were people like standing in the back. Really big crowd, huge crowd. There were probably 30 people there for an evening event above a pub. That's really good. That's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah. Very smart. Very nice. Oh well. Welcome back to Oxford, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I have returned. I am back in the city of my birth. Well, not my birth, my life. I was born in Lampeter, West Wales. Yes, I'm a taffy. Anyway, great evening. I don't know what else to add except to say thank you very much to the organisers, everyone who attended. Like I said, every seat was full, I think. There were even people standing at the back. Very, very well attended event indeed. In not ideal circumstances, it's a hot, sticky room on an evening like this above a pub. Very nice pub called the Hop Inn. And I sold 2 books out of the 3 I brought with me, which is really great. And my talk went very well. It flowed nicely. I was on a roll. I think I was doing quite well there. I've felt like the gift of the gab and the channeling my muse, etc. So that's it. On reflection, I might just do a bit of editing rather than putting that on as an alt tech. You know, it's just certain words you have to. It's not the subject matter, so it's just certain words. So I can always just bleep them out. But yeah, I'm home. It's Thursday night. Still warm. It's like nearly midnight, but it's still really warm. The bus was a bit quicker than the way there, probably because of the lack of the traffic, you know. But it got me there by about 11:20. So, thank you very much, all of you, for watching Her Panwo TV. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order.